Welcome back to the 4KIDS Turtles review series. I guess you could say that this is taking forever. I'll stop. Yes, today we are taking a look at Turtles Forever, the last installment of the 4KIDS Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which also happens to double as a 25th anniversary special. And considering we're fast approaching the 40th anniversary next year, this is making me feel very, very old. This special would feature a crossover between what was, at the time, the modern iteration of the Turtles and the 1987 cartoon. While today these sort of crossovers have sort of become the norm, what with all these Spider-Verses and multiverses of madness and whatnot, this was a pretty big deal for 2009. I wouldn't be surprised if Turtles Forever played a big role in kicking off that craze initially. So let's start things off by contributing some names to this project. Turtles Forever was directed by Roy Burdine and Lloyd Goldfine. Roy Burdine, who I've mentioned in a previous video, directed many episodes of the show, while Goldfine served as a story editor and writer. He also happened to write the special screenplay along with Matthew Durdick and Robert David, both of which have also done writing on the 4KIDS show prior to this, although I am just now realizing that Robert David was the showrunner for Netflix's CG He-Man cartoon, so that's cool I guess, at least probably to me and no one else. For something that was intended to be not just the big finale, but an overall tribute to the Turtles franchise, this movie had a lot going against it. For one, despite the emphasis on nostalgia, Turtles Forever was unsuccessful in getting the original voice actors to return. This was because 4KIDS was a non-union corporation. The original voice actors, all being part of the Screen Actors Guild, weren't even allowed to work for them. Instead, 4KIDS ended up using voice actors that had some experience in dubbing for them.
We fight old Bucket Breath over that stuff all the time!
Old Bucket Breath?
You know, old Frying Pan Face, Chrome Dome, Metal Mouth, Tin Teeth.
This included Dan Green, Sebastian Arcelis, Tony Salerno, and Johnny Castro as the four main turtles. Apparently, this movie was also aiming for a one-day limited theatrical release in October of 2009, but a dispute between 4KIDS and Fathom led to its cancellation. I don't know what the deal is with 4KIDS, but it sounds to me like they had a lot of shit to work out. Turtles Forever kicks off with the 03 Turtles seeing characters that look suspiciously like them fighting the Purple Dragons during a live news broadcast. The Turtles travel to the scene to discover the Purple Dragons have captured the 87 Turtles. This leads to a rescue mission and the reveal that the 80s Turtles have been sent to this dimension via a malfunction in the Technodrome's dimensional transporter. I'll assume that most people watching are aware, but for anyone who is curious, the Technodrome was that big round vehicle with the goofy eyeball on it that Shredder and Krang rode around in the 80s cartoon. It was kind of like their evil fortress in a way. As the special goes on, it becomes increasingly clear to fans of the 4KIDS Turtles that it straight up ignores some unresolved plot lines from the season before it. The one that stands out being the absence of Serling, who is not seen at all in this special. We're either supposed to forget he exists, or the Turtles somehow managed to send him back to the future at some point between the 7th season and this movie. I'll just assume they sent him back in a portal all by himself and he got quantum leaped on the way. A subtle difference between Back to the Sewer and Turtles Forever is that it recycles the bulkier look of the Turtles from Back to the Sewer, only this time without the pupils. This is nothing we haven't seen before. Changes in the 4KIDS turtle designs became quite frequent in the final few seasons. It also makes a lot of sense seeing as the turtles with the white pupils tends to be the much more iconic look for that iteration. I think it was the right approach. If there is one thing that Turtles Forever likes to do and is dead set on spending the majority of its runtime doing, it's making the 80s Turtles look like complete buffoons. This becomes evident in one of the first few scenes when the 80s Turtles carelessly enter a pizzeria without any disguises on. The 2003 Turtles, of course, calling them out on this.
What are they doing?
That's it, they're toast!
We can't go running around in broad daylight.
Doesn't seem to be stopping them.
But if you had ever watched the old show, you would know that the Turtles were never this careless. In fact, the Turtles wearing goofy disguises was a big part of that show. Yes, those goofy costumes would be impractical in real life, but it always worked just fine in their universe.
4 tickets, please.
Did you say 4?
Yeah, that's right, lady. 4. Like this.
There's a lot of little moments like this throughout the special that led me to question if the writers had done any research beforehand. And I'm talking like the bare minimum of research, like actually watching the cartoon that they're parroting. I could definitely be wrong, but something tells me that many of them were going off of a vague recollection of what they watched as kids. This feeling is evident throughout the entirety of Turtles Forever, but more on that in a bit. In the meantime, let's focus on the villains of this movie. For one, we get to witness the return of the 87 Shredder and Krang, who also got transported to this dimension.
First, you get us stuck in this infernal dimension, and now you struggle to defeat these primitive creatures.
They suspect that this dimension must have a Shredder of its own, as they are able to locate Shrell, who was last seen frozen on an ice asteroid. They teleport him to their base, freeing him from his icy prison, only to realize the two of them are no match for the little alien creature. Karai meets up with the Shredder, and the two of them overtake the Technodrome, repurposing the 80s Shredder's foot soldiers into new, deadlier assassins. When we last saw Karai, it seemed like she was over the Shredder. She had formed a relationship with Dr. Chaplin, and even attended April and Casey's wedding. Yet here she is working for her father again, as if none of that even happened. There is no mention of Chaplin here, so I do kind of wonder what happened to him, but is the breakup really that far-fetched? The Utram Shredder's return also feels downplayed this time around. He's pretty much the 4KIDS Turtles' unkillable arch-nemesis, but the Turtles are just like, guess the Shredder's back again, whatever, it's cool.
Hun mentioned the one true Shredder.
And you know what that means.
Our little alien Utram is back.
Utram Shredder? Sounds Swedish.
And while not a bad design, I do think the boxier style they gave him is in a way kinda dopey. It's not that he feels out of place, just that the earlier design for the Utram Shredder was fucking phenomenal, and this conveys a toonier nature. This special also features the return of Hun, who gets transformed into a giant mutant turtle via the 80s Turtles ooze. His mutant look is quite reminiscent of Slash from the 80s cartoon, although I do believe it's more inspired by Slash's comic design. It's a big change that would usually have an entire episode dedicated to it, but with a 73-minute runtime, no way in shell. And what they do with him in this movie feels entirely out of character at this point in the series, as Hun immediately swears loyalty to the Shredder upon his return.
Perhaps we have common cause once again, you and I. Yes? Yes, Master.
It was back in the 4th season that Hun resumed his place as leader of the Purple Dragons and decided to put the Shredder in the past after feeling a sense of betrayal at the realization he was an alien. They did a lot with that in seasons 4 and 7, which I would argue actually made him a more interesting character. Maybe they just assumed that no one would notice this change in characterization, but I noticed. Bebop and Rocksteady also make their appearance, which is nice to see. Beforehand, the most Bebop and Rocksteady we ever got out of the 4KIDS show was an occasional reference. Unfortunately, Bebop and Rocksteady don't have very much to do here, but I think with the epic scope of this special and just how short it is, it's easy to see why their roles are so minimal. And that brings me to another topic I wanted to discuss: the weird distribution of this movie. There are 2 cuts of Turtles Forever, the 73-minute TV cut and the extended cut, which adds an extra 8 minutes onto the film for a total of 81 minutes. There's really no big difference between the 2 cuts, just little pieces of dialogue or character interactions that were insignificant enough to cut without losing anything. The version I used for this video is the extended cut, but the DVD I originally purchased was the shortened TV cut. The TV cut, of course, had to be trimmed down to allow more commercial airtime, but 4KIDS did show the uncut version at one point in the US, having it be split up into 3 half-hour time slots with one playing each week. To be honest, I remember this movie airing a lot on the CW 4KIDS. Like, any opportunity to show this thing off, they jumped at. For anyone confused by the addition of the CW to the 4KIDS logo, this was the programming block's new name after the CW discontinued and 4KIDS bought the available time slot.
Next Saturday, this network's name will become the CW for Kids.
This actually happened in 2008, around the time Back to the Sewer first aired. It was a whole thing, you just had to be there. The uncut version of Turtles Forever would also be uploaded to the CW 4KIDS website in 2009, a website that, for obvious reasons, no longer exists. Nickelodeon and Paramount Home Entertainment would eventually release a physical DVD copy of the TV cut. In 2011, the uncut version would finally see a DVD release in the UK. This means there is no legal way to watch the extended cut in the US unless you have a player that will work with PAL region movies. I don't really have much more to say on the topic other than I think this is stupid and something that Viacom should correct. But back to the special itself, there really isn't all too much that happens that I haven't already discussed. The vast majority of it really is just jokes made at the expense of the 80s Turtles, and not in a fun way, but more so in a mean-spirited, the 80s Turtles suck and we need you to know just how much we hate them sort of way.
Jeez, it's like having 5 Mikeys now!
Now, when it comes to the 87 Turtles, this was not a show that I grew up with. I grew up watching the 2003 cartoon and didn't realize the 87 show was a thing till I was a bit older. At the time of watching this special, I would have been 11, so having never watched the old show, I didn't have any of the complaints that I have now, and I'm sure that's how it was and likely still is for a lot of people that grew up on this movie. And I'm not pretending the 87 show is any sort of masterpiece. Lord knows that's far from the case. But I think it's gross to so easily dismiss something that clearly means a lot to the people that were fans of the Turtles way before me. It's especially weird to do such a thing for the Turtles' 25th anniversary. Like, let's celebrate the evolution of the Turtles by roasting them for an hour. Every once in a while, you do get a joke that kind of works, specifically some of the less mean ones, like Raphael breaking the fourth wall.
Why do you keep doing that? Who are you talking to? There's no one there!
I just wish there was more of that here. The mean-spirited nature of the film doesn't make the 4KIDS Turtles look cool. It honestly just makes them look egotistical and sad. I can't even blame 80s kids that do hate the 2003 show because I assume most of them are only familiar with them through Turtles Forever. If that was my introduction, then I would definitely hate them too. And this may seem like an insane thing to say about a Ninja Turtles movie made for kids, but the filmmaking here is deceptive. It's trying to convince the target demographic that the 80s Turtles are lame before they've had the chance to form an opinion of their own. There are so many jokes here that are just made to make them look like pathetic idiots.
Time to hit the sewers, my brothers.
Yeah.
These things are a lot heavier in your dimension.
Like, tell me, why are sewer drains heavier in this dimension? There's no reason to put this in the special other than to make the old Turtles look weak. And if you think that's bad, you should see what they do to Donatello.
Now hand me that hammer.
This is a wrench.
Details. Science isn't all about facts, you know.
Yep, Donatello, the smart one, can't tell the difference between a wrench and a hammer. Maybe this joke kind of works if it was a play on the constant animation errors of the old show, but it's not made clear enough to really click.
That should have worked.
Should have worked? That'll never work. That's not a trans-dimensional portal stick. That's a flashlight.
There is a bit early on that I like in which we see Mikey and the 87 Turtles getting along. It makes a lot of sense and it's fun to see, but even that doesn't last.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Can't you guys be serious about anything?
Seems extremely hypocritical coming from this version of Michelangelo. Trust me, I've seen Fast Forward.
Popcorn is a delicacy best enjoyed messily and in mass quantities.
Even the 80s weapons aren't allowed to be anything but pathetic. I mean, what was these writers' deal? Like, what was going on behind the scenes?
This wagon isn't half bad.
It ain't half good either. We're just tickling these uglies.
One element I am cool with them making fun of is 80s Shredder and Krang. Of course, they were taken a tad more seriously in the show itself, but them being the butt of the joke here works, with their goofier nature contrasting so heavily with the psychotic 03 Shredder. They really are one of the few highlights of Turtles Forever. As the special moves along, the Utram Shredder learns that there's an infinite number of Ninja Turtles across the multiverse. Coming to the conclusion, the only way to be rid of them once and for all is to travel to the Source Dimension, the place where it all started, the 1984 Eastman and Laird comic book. Karai has a change of heart and decides to free the Turtles, upon realizing her father's plan would mean the permanent erasure of their own dimension. This is one of those things that, while perfectly in character for Karai, bugs me anyway. We're 7 seasons and a movie in, and we're still doing this shit with her character. Is she a hero or is she a villain? I don't know. I don't think we'll ever truly know. As their world is being erased, the Turtles travel to the Source Dimension to warn them of the coming threat. This is the other highlight of the special, seeing the original black and white comic Turtles be fully animated.
What is this? 8 wannabes?
On our turf?
Trying to steal our act?
Watching this as a kid, I was not super knowledgeable on Turtles history, so in many ways this served as my introduction to the original comic books, which likely led to a lot of my interest with Turtles media beyond the 4KIDS cartoon. Another positive to their appearance is the way they use them to poke fun at the 2003 Turtles.
What's with the multicolored headbands? Sellouts.
Granted, there's probably not enough insults thrown at them. I mean, the 87 Turtles were roasted into charred oblivion, but at least it's something. The Utram Shredder makes his presence known as he uses his robot suit to somehow grow 3 sizes too big that day. And then some.
You're not the only one with a molecular amplification biosuit, you know?
Ah, of course, it all makes sense now. What a fool I was. Krang belches on the Turtles. I don't know why. I do quite like the big finale where everyone teams up to take down the giant Utram Shredder, especially the part where Shredder realizes that destroying the Turtles will end his own existence as well, but then decides to do it anyway, because he's just that petty.
I am the Shredder, slayer of Ninja Turtles. If destroying them means the end of everything, then so be it!
Of course, even the finale can't help but make a few more jokes at the 87 Turtles' expense.
Yeah, okay, it's okay. You can let go now, let go. Don't make me hurt you.
In the end, it's actually Bebop and Rocksteady who save the day as they successfully plug the Technodrome's laser beam back in its socket, therefore blowing him to bits and officially putting a final end to the Utram Shredder. Of course, they were also the ones that unplugged it in the first place, but I'll let that slide. They're heroes in my book. The special ends with the multiverse saved and all the Turtles returning to their old dimensions. The very last scene depicts Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird hard at work on their original comic book when deciding to get a slice of pizza.
Hey, let's get back to this after lunch, huh?
Sounds good. Pizza?
Yeah, pizza. Oh, I sure hope this thing sells.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
It's a sweet little conclusion and one of the few moments in the film that feels like a genuine, loving tribute. And that, my friends, is where the 4KIDS Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ends. I wish I could say I like Turtles Forever. It's certainly a fantastic concept for a Turtles movie, especially as a 25th anniversary tribute. But unfortunately, I just couldn't enjoy this movie now the same way I did as a kid. Turtles Forever feels like the writer's personal vendetta against the 87 show. It's as if they feel the need to enforce upon the viewers the idea that their Ninja Turtles adaptation is superior, something that I never even questioned, at least never questioned until watching this almost made me ashamed to be a 2003 Turtles fan. With that said, 4KIDS' take on the characters really is the first thing that usually comes to my mind when I think about the Ninja Turtles. The show had its ups and downs, a lot of downs in those later seasons, but it left an incredibly strong impression on me, and till this day, I still consider it to be not just my favorite iteration of the Turtles, but one of my favorite TV shows as well. In October of 2009, around the release of Turtles Forever, Viacom would acquire global rights to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles via Mirage Group. The 4KIDS Turtles would continue to air reruns on the CW 4KIDS up until August of 2010, when the channel was rebranded as Toonzai.
Every Saturday morning at 9 on the CW 4KIDS Toonzai.
This is gonna be excellent.
As an early teen, I recall being pretty judgmental of the 2012 show, but I have since grown to really love and appreciate a lot of what Nickelodeon has done with the franchise. In retrospect, both the 2012 show and Rise were awesome, and I am very much looking forward to the upcoming Mutant Mayhem movie. Looks dope. There were, of course, the Michael Bay produced movies as well, but I'm willing to put up with a few hours of bad content if it means hundreds of hours of good content elsewhere. I'm also pretty okay with Out of the Shadows. Just before writing this, I did do a quick rewatch of the 2012 show's own crossover with the 87 Turtles, a quick 20-minute episode called Trans-Dimensional Turtles, which, while certainly more rushed and not without some limitations, I actually prefer this crossover over Turtles Forever. It treats the 87 Turtles with the respect I feel they deserve. It does recycle a lot of jokes and ideas that we already saw in Turtles Forever, but it's a fun time nonetheless. The end of the 4KIDS Turtles really marked a turning point in my life. It ended around a time that I started to believe I was too old for cartoons. A stage that I believe most people go through in their teen years until they discover anime.
This ain't no Mickey Mouse. This ain't no Looney Tune.
Toonzai would be replaced by Vortex in August of 2012. Vortex being a programming block owned by Saban Brands, featuring a mix of both dubbed anime and live-action entertainment like Power Rangers and the WWE Saturday Morning Slam.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to WWE Saturday Morning Slam.
2012 was the same year that I started high school, and at this point, I was no longer keeping track of what shows aired Saturday mornings. Vortex would be the last remaining block to air Saturday morning cartoons on broadcast television. In September of 2014, the block would come to an end, and with it came the end of an era. It was one of those transitions I didn't give much thought to at the time, but looking back on it, the disappearance of Saturday morning cartoons is something that leaves me feeling pretty down today. As a kid, I recall broadcast television having at least 3 separate cartoon programming blocks all airing at the same time. If you got bored of one show, you could simply flip over to another.
Presenting the Fox Box. That's it?
It's not just the shows themselves, but the bumpers and ads that added to the overall experience. I'll never forget that stupid Kids WB logo or the occasional cringe moments from 4KIDS.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
Yes, at the end of the day, it was all just candy-coated capitalism, but as a kid, you don't think about that stuff. And I think all adults yearn for those days of innocence again. Despite the way I felt when I was a teen, it's clear today that I never really grew up. I let a lot of my childhood interests define me. Maybe that's unhealthy, I couldn't say for sure. But what I do know is my life is better with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in it. I loved it as a kid, and I still love it now. It's one of those things that will always fill me with pure childlike joy. So I thank you all for taking this amazing journey with me. I love taking a look back at this show that means so much to me. I'd also like to thank the whole creative team for putting together this incredible feat of animation. It appears another era of my life has come to an end as I just recently moved out and have my own apartment. I'm excited to give this adult thing a try, so please have patience with me as I attempt to balance out all aspects of my life. Once again, a very special thank you to everyone who watched this review series. I hope to see you all again soon. Goodbye.